Hi there, I'm Katy-Rose, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about simplifying your life ready for the new year. Although this is a video coming out before 2019, it could be before any time that you decide, do you know what, I need to make a bit of a change and I want to live a little bit more simply, a little bit more intentionally, with a bit more control. So I am not a minimalist, I am not a particularly good declutterer. But something I have been doing this month in particular is looking a little bit at my physical space, my mental space, what kind of things I want to do more of or do less of in 2019. And although there are a lot of, 19 things to get rid of before 2019 kind of posts out there, I'm starting with 5 steps that can help simplify the way that we're going to move forward into the next year. So step 1 is broken or empty items. So this is a physical space suggestion, and I do find it one of the easier ones when it comes to decluttering, looking at kind of minimalism and being intentional about what we're keeping and what lives in our space with us. The first one is this broken. Is it empty? Is there any use for it anymore for what it currently is? So this can be, boxes, envelopes that are waiting to go in the recycling bin. I've just finished eating a cereal bar and I've left the packet next to me. That needs to go in the bin when I walk out. Those kind of things. So this is something that can be really useful to look around the space and go, oh, that candle's burned out. There's nothing left in it anymore. Let me put it in the bin. Sometimes those things can really clutter up our space and we don't really notice them so much. That's the first one, broken or empty things. Even if you want to keep them, do they need to live where they're currently living? So if you are someone who is trying to keep that, going to wash out that coffee jar and keep pasta in it, for example, does it need to live where it currently is, or does it need to get washed and put in, in the cupboard, ready for pasta? Number 2 is items that no longer fit. So this can include things that physically don't fit you, as in clothing. So actually if things are a little bit tight, or they're on their way to being broken. So you can tell when a piece of clothing, for example, or shoes are wearing out. They might technically still be wearable, they might still look okay, but they've got a massive kind of crack down the bottom of the sole, and you know that when you step in puddles that the water gets through, that kind of thing. They're really on their last legs. Things that don't fit well at all, so either your body shape has changed, you've changed size, or the piece of clothing shrunk in the wash, or it never fit you very well to begin with. Equally, things that don't fit with our lifestyle. So I've spent probably 5 years wearing flat shoes, flat kind of plimp soles, lace-ups, and over the last year and a half or so, I've been having some pain in the arches under my feet. So now I very specifically wear shoes that have arch support. So I had a pair of plimp soles that I hadn't worn particularly much, so they went to a friend so that they wouldn't get wasted, because I just knew they don't fit with my lifestyle anymore. They're not working for me. Number 3 on our list of 5 things to simplify our life is projects that you no longer feel called to do. So one of the things that I tend to return to 2 or 3 times a year is drawing. So I have a few books on drawing, I have a particularly nice set of drawing pencils, I have a couple of watercolour brushes, and some brush pens. However, I do not do this very often, so every year I try and get into drawing, realise how bad I am because I've not done it for a year. That's the usual reason, and therefore I don't need any more art supplies. Equally, I still own some yarn and some very pretty blue metallic knitting needles that were gifted to me back in university, because I wanted to try and learn to knit again, because I learned as a child but I forgot, and it's not for me. I get quite frustrated with it. It is just not my type of creativity. Yet I still own the knitting needles and yarn, when realistically I know that I'm not going to knit again. I know that it's not for me, and that could be something that I look at gifting in the new year to someone who will actually use. And this also includes books that you bought with the intention to read them but have never read. I currently own more books than I will ever manage to read, and I'm not a particularly good declutterer, but one of the things I am aware of that I need to work on is my books, because I am an avid reader, but not avid enough to keep up with the ones that I buy. So this might include actually books you bought with good intention, never read. So I've even got some from university that I read. I bought them for the purpose of the course and maybe flick through a few chapters of them for the course, but I am unlikely to read the whole of them. Then realistically they can go. Number 4 on this list is kind of, I suppose, items in a kind of junk area, I suppose is what I would call it. So it's really common for us in these days to have a junk drawer or a junk room, like a room, the office or the study or the spare bedroom, which is actually a storage room. I'm not talking about those more longer term kind of habits, but more about those areas where things accumulate. So it might be that your kitchen sink is always full of dishes. So the moment you finish a load of washing up, you put everything else straight into the sink rather than on the side next to it. For us, it tends to be the coffee table in the living room, which is currently hidden, so that works. But that tends to get current post put on it, anything that we haven't dealt with that we need to deal with at the end of the weekend. Even if things don't work, so actually if I found a few pens that don't work and I've ended up leaving them on the coffee table rather than putting them in the bin. Some people might find that it's a shelf by the front door that has their keys and bits and bobs in it. For other people it might be a bedside table. Again, it's one of the things that I do manage to keep quite clear, but I'm aware that some people will pile up books and charging leads and empty cups and that sort of thing. So pick one of these small areas before 2019 and intentionally ask yourself, does this live here? Does this have a home somewhere else? Is it serving me where it currently is? And either giving it a home elsewhere, removing it entirely, or giving it its own little official space, I suppose, on the bedside table or on that coffee table. And finally, the 5th kind of aspect that I'm looking particularly to simplify for 2019 is thinking about the plans that we make. So I talk a little bit in one of my other videos about prioritizing, so I will pop a link in the description down below for that. But thinking a little bit about how many of the plans, are you actually going to be able to do next year? So it's all very well saying, well, I want to be healthy and I want to run and I want to do yoga and I want to write a book and I want to start a business and all of these things, read 50 books. There are all things that technically sound great and I would love to do pretty much all of them. However, we are limited. There's only 168 hours every week and there's only so much energy that our bodies can actually get us through with and keep us going with. So how many of your plans are you truly aligned with? If you were to prioritize them, what's at the top of your list? So for me, fiction writing is always the top of my list, no matter what the year is. It has been since 2009. So I still write fiction and submit every year and things like that. And just because I want to do that and I want to do yoga, it doesn't mean I can't do yoga. It means that actually I prioritize hitting my word count goal before I prioritize hitting the amount of time that I do yoga in a month. So the other question is, do you actually want to do yoga daily? Or would you rather, do you want to be someone who is fit and healthy, has flexibility? What is it you're looking to get out of your plans? And this ties in a little bit of values, which I've spoken about in a couple of my other videos. So what is it you want out of life? And how do your goals and your plans fit with those outcomes that you're seeking? So the final step is to really prioritize and simplify your plans. So rather than having 10 New Year's resolutions, and you're going to start them all on day one, hopefully where you kind of want to be, it's about those first few baby steps of maybe 1, maybe 2 of those goals, depending on how many you've already started with and how many foundations you've already laid. So those are the 5 things that I am looking to particularly simplify for 2019, and I think they are some of the slightly easier ones than becoming a minimalist, sort of clearing your whole house, reshaping your entire identity. They are those slightly smaller things that can have a real good lasting impact, but are those baby steps that will add up, that aren't too difficult to start with. If you have any thoughts about what you want to do to simplify before the next month, year, etc., do leave them in a comment down below, and I will speak to you again in the next video.